Morning. So, in part one, we sort of talked about the very basics of setting up masks and what that's all about in OBS and why you'd want to do it. So, that gives you a very basic start into presenting well online using Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. But part two is all about taking that up a slight notch so that you can really stand out from the crowd, so you can make yourself look proper smart in the way that you're doing it. And there's loads of ways that you can do that natively in these programs like Zoom and Google Meet, so you can blur out the background, you can change the background or whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's unique to you and is a bit bespoke, so you can customize away to your heart's content. So, these little touches, I'll show you just how to get started on that. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. Let's move on to level 2. So level 2 looks more like this. Hi again. So you will see now we're taking it up a notch. So we've got our logo down there, and you also notice that I've got a frame. Now that isn't actually a frame. So we'll explain that, and you'll notice there's a lot more going on with the this particular scene in terms of the number of sources that are in there. Again, we'll come back to that another day. I will make a separate video about that. Okay, so on here you see we've got Illustrator open. Now, in order to create this background here, dead easy. So again, if you want to, with that one, nope, left screen, there we go. I should really know that. I'm sitting in front of it, for God's sakes. So if we Google, I don't know, rainbow circle, we go to images. Yep, then we'll see straight away you've got some. Now the problem is, of course, that these probably got backgrounds on. So if we go PNG, let's see if we get some isolated ones. You would think there should be, because been relevant. There you go. So you always know when they you've got an isolated one, because you've got that alpha channel in the background, which is basically the checkerboard. Now you will notice that these ones on here have a checkerboard on them. Aha, that's what they want you to believe, that that's actually a isolated image. It isn't. That's actually, they have put the checkerboard on there as part of the image, so it's not what it seems. So that means you do have to go through these white ones and find the ones that you like. Obviously, that's the only one. So yeah, you could do it that way and then just drop it in and scale it down. That's entirely up to you if you want to do it that way. Alternatively, let's go set the screen. Ta-da! Oh, I'm really liking this. I really need to get a Stream Deck or a deck system set up, or what used to be called a broadcast switch or a visual switch. Yeah, that'll make my life a bit easier. Or I could just set up some keybinds on here. Yeah. I'll figure that out. Rambling, moving on. So, anyway, set up a new one on here if you want to create your own. And you could do this in Photoshop, you could do this in Paint, let's be honest. Like, this is super simple stuff. So again, width 1920, height 1080, that maintains your aspect ratio of 16:9, which means when you scale it down, it's going to scale down relative to the rest of the frame, which is, if you're being completely really fussy about it, then yeah, it's not necessary, but it helps. So let's just draw out very quickly, scale that down a bit more. There we go, that'll do. Okay, so we don't want a outline on this. What I do want is we want to set up gradient. So let's just set up the gradient, and this is gradient path. So let's go, we'll have red at one end, and we'll go yellow sort of there somewhere. Let's go green there. Blue, stick that in, pink, and then maybe a purple, I suppose. And there we go. Let's space these out a bit more. Probably should have put orange in as our colour. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm just going to keep black over there because that's quite nice. And, I could just sort of stretch that out like that. Or, if I don't want to do that, I could just simply rotate the entire thing like that off its axis. Whatever, doesn't matter. Simple as that. You've got it done, and this is going to constitute your frame. Now you'll notice that I'm not picking out the middle of this, and there's a reason for that, and you will see why in a bit. That's just more to make life a bit easier, because why would you make life difficult for yourself? So in good old-fashioned Blue Peter style. Right screen, and let's just minimize that. You'll see I've made one earlier. Ta-da! Right, so that's the one that we've used. If we go back into OBS again. Oh, God, that's trippy. Okay, future me is just going to jump in on past me here. So what I'd done with this was I'd actually left it on the wrong screen when I went through this next bit. So I'm just going to redo the entire thing today instead. So let's get on with that. So yesterday I created the frame for this, showed you how to do that. So in order to pull that in, you will see that here in this scene, so scene is on the right monitor, and these are my sources that are in there. 3 that are active at the minute is the video capture device, which is this guy here, and the audio input capture, which is this here, and the display capture, which is what you're mostly looking at. You will notice there's 2 others on here, and you will notice that they are greyed out. So I've just literally pulled these in from the other one just to show you how this works, so it's dead easy. Let's start with the frame. Bang, there it is. Ooh, that was a bit cool. Rainbow laser, nice. Okay, so there's the frame. All you have to do with this is drag it behind there. Now, if I drag this over, you will see that it completely obscures the actual webcam. What to do? Okay, so these sources work in exactly the same way as any other sort of creative program in that they are layered. So you can move these about. So in this instance, what I want to do is I want to drag it underneath my video capture device. I don't want to drag it all the way to the bottom because that will just take it completely off the screen altogether, you see, because it'll go behind the display cap. I just want to bring it behind the video capture. There we go. And now when I drag this over, ta-da, there it is. Right, so things to be aware of. The reason that I didn't cut out a hole in this in the first instance is because I didn't want to make any assumptions about where this was going to go in relation to this and the exact size that anything needed to be. This way I've got the freedom to scale this up and this up and this down and this down completely independent of each other and not have to worry about sort of, you know, it leaving a gap around the edges or whatever. So it can be any size that I need it to be at any given moment in time, which is great stuff. The only thing that I will say about resizing in this is that if you resize one, inevitably you will have to resize the other unless you want like a massive big frame or teeny tiny frame or whatever, because you cannot, whilst you can select both of those, but you cannot scale them together. See, it will only ever scale one. Now, the other thing is that there is no Control Z, unlike other creative programs. There is no undo button, so if you do something, you have to manually undo it. Okay, the other thing to be aware of with this is that when you move it around, you will see if it goes off the edge, you get this chevron effect there. That's telling you that part of the frame is off there. Now, if I click on this, you will see that part of the webcam frame is off there, but that doesn't matter in this instance because I've got the mask on. So yeah, but that's just telling you that there's something there that isn't being displayed on the render, and that's fine. Okay, so in order to scale this down, I just drag here. Now, if I just manually drag it, you will see. So as I was saying before OBS decided to crash, doesn't happen very often, that worth pointing out, very stable. I was dragging this down, so in order to do that I just get the corner handles and scale it down. Now if I want to scale that beyond the ratio, I just hold down the shift key like you would in Photoshop. If I let it go, it'll just automatically snap back. So if you do want to deform it or whatever, hold the shift key. If you don't, you just want to scale it down the correct ratio, 16:9, then just drag it in. Just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to continue to scale it until I've just got a nice little edge on it. Oop, wants to snap. Let's just scale it down a bit more. Now, there is no way of aligning these, which is slightly annoying. No, that's not what I want to do either. Come on. Right. Oh! God damn it. There we go, that's what I want. So if I just move that instead, there we go, that makes life a bit easier. So we're just going to have to eyeball it. So like I said, there is no way to align these using tools. Something worth adding, OBS. Yeah, close enough. That'll do. Okay, without messing around. So that's that done. That's your frame. Bish bash. So once you've got that, now you can add other elements on top of that. So, for example, you will notice that I have the Fable logo here. Boop! There it is. Right, so I'm just going to move that. And let's scale it down a little bit. I'm going to keep it on top. You will notice that it's on top of the other bits as well. I'm keeping that on top. So again, you can layer these things any which way that you want to, which can create some cool effects. But keeping it simple for today, there it is. Bang, done. Just like that. That's your bespoke frame done, and you can wow all your colleagues on your next Zoom or Google Meet call or whatever. Okay. Where to go from here? I'm going to turn this into a bit of a series. I hadn't intended to, because I just started doing some bits and pieces for LinkedIn because this was relevant given the current climate with the virus and people having to work from home and having to present a lot at home, and that presentations were getting really, really boring. This is that sort of introduction for anyone who, again, it was geared towards just presenting stuff online really more than anything. There are a few other bits and pieces to know about using OBS with programs like Zoom and Google Meet. I'm not going to get into that today because some of it is, how can I put it, quite in depth, but necessary. So particularly with things like back channels and stuff, but we'll get to that. That's going to be a whole video unto itself, and that's yeah. Settle yourself in for that one with a brew because it's going to be a long one. So yeah, this is going to be a whole series on things. So I think for the next one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right back to the very beginning of what OBS is and why it's used and what its purpose is and why you should use it or why you shouldn't use it, etc. All that kind of stuff. So that's that. That's fancy frames done, licked. Next steps: background, back channels, and also integrations with third-party stuff to make stuff like OBS work with Google Meet, etc. We'll get to that another time. So for today, have a good one. That's a nice bit of content, that. So that's me done for the day. Take her easy, guys. Stay safe out there. I'm out.